What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with some more news. Join us now as we look at the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know, including WWE female stars frustrated, Goldberg addresses an urban legend, former NXT stars appear at AEW's tapings, why Brock Lesnar was censored, a big return at SummerSlam, and much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Also check out Wrestlelamia.co.uk and our non-wrestling channel, Incredible. But now let's hit the intro and get straight into our first story. Now, first story looks at WWE female stars very frustrated. Our top story today looks at how some of the women in WWE are incredibly frustrated with their booking and lack of television time. This news comes from Fightful Select, who claims that this frustration among the women has been building for months, and this includes people on the bottom and top of the card. It is said that several of the women were waiting to see where the chips would fall after WrestleMania, and talent was said to be waiting on the returns of Asuka and Lacey Evans, and Charlotte Flair taking time off following WrestleMania Backlash. More women were able to be featured. Then, with Sasha Banks and Naomi abruptly walking out of WWE, this allowed WWE to use more talent, including Alexa Bliss, Shotzi, Aaliyah, Xia Li, Doudrop, and Nikki Ash. Additionally, there has been some unhappiness with Vince McMahon, seemingly caring about more squeezing himself onto television after the initial Wall Street Journal story than making sure that female talent were booked and protected on the show. Whilst not reported in the Fightful Select report, it's entirely possible that talents being unhappy with their booking led to WWE putting the SmackDown Women's title on Liv Morgan at Money in the Bank. And Morgan is rather popular with superstars backstage and is set to get on with everyone in the locker room. Awarding Morgan with her first women's title is a possible sign that WWE will be using more women in a meaningful role moving forward. Now, one thing that the Fightful Select report does indicate is that Ronda Rousey has been willing to work with a variety of women on the show, which is great to see. Rousey has received extensive criticism during her second run for not really caring about being in WWE, but this report clearly implies the complete opposite. Rousey is now set to meet Morgan in a rematch for the SmackDown Women's title at the SummerSlam Premium Live event. What do you guys make of this story? Let us know in the comments down below. Next up, Goldberg addresses an urban legend. Since Goldberg shockingly defeated The Fiend back in 2020, there's been an urban legend that Goldberg lobbied to defeat The Fiend and win the Universal title. The urban legend states that on the day of the pay-per-view, Goldberg met with Vince McMahon and convinced him to change the match finish. Fans often cite this loss to Goldberg as The Fiend's downfall, and some would even call it one of the worst booking decisions in WWE history. Goldberg addressed this allegation during an interview with Shaq Wrestling, and this is what the former world champion had to say. Let's put it this way, I've never said anything that wasn't true in the wrestling business. I'm a talent and I do what the boss tells me to do. I flew to Saudi Arabia knowing I was gonna lose, then somehow it changed and the finish was different. It surely wasn't me because it's an extremely selfish move to do. Number 2, truly it would be about the business. It would be about myself. Number 3, who the hell am I as a part-time guy to come in and demand anything? Truly I'm not. Not in a million years in that Fiend situation in Saudi Arabia would I have done that. No way in hell. I'd love to see him face to face and make sure that there's not 1% of his being that believes that I changed the match. That's the first time I've actually been able to defend myself in that situation. Goldberg's rationale seems rather logical and sincere. If what Goldberg is saying is correct, then the harmful narrative that's been spun for the past 2 years needs to come to an end. Next up, former NXT stars appear at AEW tapings. Our former WWE NXT star wrestled yesterday at AEW Dark Tapings in Orlando, Florida. According to reports, Parker Boudreaux, who was known in NXT as Harland, wrestled at the tapings and looks to be a permanent AEW talent. Boudreaux, who now uses his real name in AEW, was introduced by Araya Davari, who is now known simply as Ari. Ari has created a new stable known as the Trustbusters, and he claimed that he was now the richest man in pro wrestling. The former 205 Live star would later recruit former Ring of Honor star Slim J, who also made his AEW debut at the tapings. Now, it's unknown if this stable will make it to Dynamite or Rampage, but it's without a doubt an interesting idea that fans would be curious to see play out on the major shows. That wasn't the last of the former NXT talent wrestling on Dark yesterday, as the former Troy 2 Dimes Donovan competed in the first set of tapings. Donovan defeated Mike Orlando and looked to be using the name Cole Carter. AEW using former NXT talent for the Dark tapings is a smart move. Even if their appearance doesn't lead to them signing a long-term deal, they are reliable stars who deserve another chance in the spotlight. Next up, details on why Brock Lesnar was censored. This week's Monday Night Raw opened with the #1 contender for the undisputed WWE Universal title, Brock Lesnar, cutting an in-ring promo. During the promo, Lesnar would curse, and this would be censored out on the live broadcast of the show. Rather interesting, this cursing was completely planned and was in the initial script for Lesnar's promo. According to Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer Radio, the USA Network approved the curse word in the show and they shouldn't have censored it. WWE was said to be surprised with the censorship, especially in the wake of the news that Raw could be transitioning into a TV-14 presentation. This is likely a case of miscommunication, but if WWE is indeed heading in the direction of a TV-14 product, then they need to make sure that the USA Network is fully on board with cursing and other potential obscenities that could be present in a TV-14 wrestling show. Next up, a Jason Jordan injury update. A former tag team champion, Jason Jordan, was forced to suddenly retire from pro wrestling back in 2018. WWE had major plans to make Jordan a top star in the company, and he was even involved in a storyline which revealed Jordan as Kurt Angle's son. This storyline was to culminate in a match between Angle and Jordan at WrestleMania 34, but ultimately this never took place. Jordan unfortunately suffered with issues with his neck, and this resulted in him hanging up his boots indefinitely. Although this was a sad end to Jordan's career, he's still very much involved in WWE as he is currently in the role of a WWE producer. This is a role which Jordan has received widespread praise for, and it's clear that Jordan has a lot of love and knowledge for the world of pro wrestling. According to WWE Hall of Famer Kurt Angle, Jordan's injury is way worse than fans may think, and he's still dealing with his neck injury to this very day. Discussing Jordan's injury on his podcast, Angle revealed, "You know what's crazy? He has problems to this day. His motor skills, his hands are on and off all the time. He just can never get right. I'm not sure why that's occurring with him, because with me, at least I got relief at times. With him, he's never gotten relief. He's been struggling with it for years." Now, this is disappointing to hear, as there was some hope from fans that Jordan may wrestle again. However, with him having motor issues, it seems next to impossible that Jordan will ever step foot in a WWE ring again. And finally, big return at SummerSlam. Our final story today shares some exciting news in relation to former women's champion Bayley. According to an exclusive report from PW Insider, Bayley is scheduled to be in Nashville for SummerSlam weekend. Bayley suffered a torn ACL while training at the WWE Performance Center last summer, and she was initially set to miss 9 months of action. Bayley would be a monumental boost for the women's division and would be a huge morale booster for the women in the locker room, as Bayley seems to be the default locker room leader. It's not known yet if Bayley will be returning as a babyface or a heel. When her injury occurred, Bayley was a heel, yet there have been rumors that WWE may wish to turn Bayley back into a beloved babyface. There's lots of excitement from fans in relation to the idea of seeing a Bayley feud with Becky Lynch. This is a storyline that WWE have yet to explore and could lead to some fantastic matches between the two acclaimed talents. WWE may also wish to revisit the feud between Bayley and Bianca Belair, as the two were in the midst of a feud before Bayley's injury. Another option is that Bayley could feud with the new SmackDown Women's Champion Liv Morgan. This would be a fresh feud for Bayley and could help elevate Morgan's reign and stature in the company. If Bayley does return at SummerSlam, who would you like to see a feud with? Let us know in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.